يا أيها الذين آمنوا اصبروا وصابروا ورابطوا واتقوا الله لعلكم تفلحون.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, everyone is doing well and everyone enjoyed the recitation by Hafid Noor and Hafid Idris. Every day at 2 p.m. they are completing the entire Quran. So I encourage everyone to continue joining and benefiting from their recitation. So today we completed 3 surahs: Surah Yusuf, Surah Al-Ra'ad, and Surah Ibrahim. As I mentioned yesterday, inshallah, we'll try to touch light on Surah Yusuf for a bit because everyone wants to hear about Ahsan al-Qasas, the most beautiful surah. Inshallah, I am sure Shaykh Abdullah and Mufti Abdul Rahman will also dive into this surah in their evening 9:30 p.m. session when they're speaking about a chapter of the Quran or a juz of the Quran. I will just shed some light on it where I feel like it may be beneficial for us to understand, and then hopefully summarize it within 10 minutes, and the rest, inshallah, you can get tonight. So first of all, this surah was revealed at the lowest point of the Prophet ﷺ's life. And that lowest point is known as Amul Huzn, at the time of after the death of his blessed wife, beloved wife Khadija radiallahu anha, Abu Talib. And then right after that, the Prophet ﷺ went out to get some help from the neighboring city of Ta'if, and he was pelted away by children. And when Aisha radiallahu anha asked the Prophet ﷺ, what was the most difficult day of your life, he responded by saying the day of Ta'if. The day of Ta'if was the most difficult day of my life in Mecca. So you can imagine the level of hardship that he is going through. Like one thing, second thing, third thing. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhal insanu innaka kadihun ya rabbika kadhan famulaqi. That you will continue to go through hardships one after the next until you actually meet me. And that is the journey of life. So to make the Prophet ﷺ, to rekindle his lamp of iman at a high level, and to re-encourage him and to re-motivate him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him this blessed surah in the form of the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. Allah gave him 3 things. He gave him the iman of the jinn, he gave him the journey of Mi'raj, and he also gave him the story of Yusuf. And that is a quick background. There can be more that can be said about this, but I think that would suffice with what has been said for now. Now in Surah Yusuf, we will talk about 10 quick points. And inshallah, hopefully this can summarize a good portion of it. 10 quick points. In this surah, we have 10 low points, 5 low points. In this surah, we have 5 low points in the struggle of Yusuf alayhi salam, and then we also have 5 high points and 5 victories for Yusuf alayhi salam. So it's as if when we open up this surah and we read it with reflection and tadabbur, we're able to realize that the struggles and the victories, they matched up, right? But yes, of course, the struggles all came first. All of the struggles were piled up upon each other. It wasn't that one struggle came, then immediately after one struggle, another victory came, then one struggle, then one victory. But rather, there were 5 struggles, 5 difficult struggles and hardships that if we had to go through even one of them, it would break our back. And this child or this individual, Yusuf alayhi salam, had to go through 5 of them. The first of which is his brothers betraying him and throwing him into a well, right? And of course, they were talking about killing him until one of the brothers, Yehuda, he says, no, do not kill him. If you were to do anything, فَأَلْقُوهُ فِي غَيَابَةِ الْجُبِّ, throw him into a well. يَلْتَقِطُ بَعْدُ السَّيَّارَةِ إِن كُنتُمْ فَاعِلِينَ. Someone, a traveler, will grab him. If you really want to do something, do this. So the first struggle, the first challenge this child had was being betrayed by his brothers and being thrown inside of a well. For those that understand the language of Arabic, and I'll try to hopefully open this word up a little bit, غَيَابَةِ الْجُبِّ doesn't just mean that it was a well, but rather a jub refers to a unmade well, just a big hole. And غَيَابَةِ الْجُبِّ refers to the fact that the lower you put him, the darker it gets, so you can't see what's going on beneath. And it's in the outskirts. Some say it was 78 miles or 78 kilometers away from the city, far out from the city. And the reason why they threw him far out from the city is so that no one from the city could grab him. And if someone from the city was to grab him, they would recognize who he is. So they went and they tried hard to hide this child by going far out from the city and throwing him into a well that wasn't really even a well. It was just a hole, an uncooked, unmade well that had no bricks on it, just a big hole. And in that hole, the water would be there at times. Sometimes there would be no water there because it was so far out from the city. People would not use it as much. It was used by travelers. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that these people went, of course, they lied to their father and said a wolf ate this child, and they threw him inside of a well. I wish you had time to go into some of the details of what they did and how they did this. Where Yaqub alayhi salam's house was on the bottom of the hill. So they climbed up this hill with Yusuf on their back. And as they climbed up this hill, when the sight of Yaqub alayhi salam ended, because the hill had a decline now, they took this child from their shoulders and they threw him on the floor and they started to kick him. And when he said, "Please help me, why are you," and this child is so confused, "Why are you hitting me for? Why did you just turn up against me? And help me." And each brother that he would go to, the brothers would say that, "No, don't ask us for help. Rather ask help from the sun and the stars and the moon. You saw them in your dream, ask them for help. Don't ask us for help." And they continued kicking him and forced him to walk. And some Imam Qurtubi rahimahullah and Imam Ibn Kathir rahimahullah explains that they actually almost broke his back. With such viciousness, they hit this child. And finally, they get to this well, they throw him inside the well. And it's interesting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't say that they took him and they threw him inside and they forced him inside. Allah doesn't go into those details because the Quran is not a vulgar book. Rather, Allah just says, فَلَمَّا ذَهَبُوا بِهِ وَأَجْمَعُوا أَن يَجْعَلُوا فِي غِيَابَةِ الْجُبِّ, that when they decided to put him into a well, and then Allah continued the story. This Mufassirun say this is the case because these brothers were forgiven. And some narrations even say that they also became prophets. They were forgiven. That's a weaker narration, but they were all forgiven. Since they were forgiven, Allah does not expose their mistake in their evil. That's the first loss, the first challenge. The second challenge is a separation from his dear brother Binyamin. This is a big challenge for this Yusuf alayhi salam, from his blood brother, from the mother and the father, to deal with separation from Binyamin. And in the first challenge, you have separation from the father as well. The third challenge is, yes, he's taken out from the well, but now he's sold as a slave. And I'm summarizing this because we don't have much time, and there's so much to be said about each of these challenges. They throw him he's taken out of this well, and when he's taken out of this well, he's sold as a slave for a few pennies and a few bucks and a few dimes, right? Some of us, you don't say, why was he sold for so cheap? And they say since he was in the well for so many days, his face, his complexion had changed. So they were unable to see how beautiful this child was. And secondly, they were just scared because they knew he wasn't a real slave. So they wanted to sell him as fast as you could, because having a slave at that time was a true commodity and you could make some money off it. So they sold him quickly before they get caught. So they sell him as a slave. The third challenge. The fourth challenge, the fourth hardship that this youngster had to go through was the challenge of finally finding a home. And after finding a home, after being seduced by Zulaykha, being sent off to prison. Fourth challenge, right? Where he says, قَالَ رَبِّ السِّجْنُ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا يَدْعُونَنِي إِلَيْهِ. Oh Allah, the prison is more beloved to me than these sins that these individuals are calling me towards. They're calling me towards these sins. I don't want to go there. So that's a fourth challenge. The fifth challenge, the fifth hardship that he had to deal with, was when he told his friend or his companion that was in prison with him, that, make sure you remind your king about me. اذكرني عند ربك فأنساه الشيطان ذكر ربه. Shaitan made him forget, and he continues to stay in prison for 7 more years. The fifth challenge. Now let's talk about the 5 victories. The first victory is that he is removed from prison and his name is cleared, because he refused to get out of prison until his name was cleared. And once his name was cleared, that he did not do anything to Zulaykha or any of the women that accused him of these unspeakable acts. He says, once my name is cleared, then I'll come out. And his name was completely cleared, where Zulaykha and the woman said that no, الآن حصص الحق أنا راودته عن نفسي وإنه لمن الصادقين. That now the truth has come out. I am the culprit and he is the innocent person. He was the one protecting himself from me. It's the first victory. That after 5 difficulties, one upon the next, right? Sometimes we think that, okay, one difficulty came and now I should have ease in my life. إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. Allah explains to the Prophet ﷺ that yes, you went through a lot of difficulty. Look at Yusuf. He went through one, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and then finally the first victory came, that he was removed from prison and his name was cleared. That's the first one. The second one is he is made وقال ملك ائتوني به أستخلص نفسي فلما كلمه قال إنك اليوم لدينا مكين أمين قال جعلني على خزائن الأرض. He is made the king, or one of the main ministers of Misr in Egypt, where he is a treasurer of all of the wealth that comes in and goes out of this country. So he's made the king, he's made a treasurer, he's given a high rank from the dungeon of a prison to the peak of being a king. And this happened because he was able to connect himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in those isolated moments inside of that prison. The third victory is where he's finally reunited with his brother. He's finally reunited with his brother, where he planted this cup inside of his brother's bag, and when they were leaving, ثم أذن مؤذن أية العير إنكم لسارقون. There's someone amongst you who is stealing something. Someone is stealing something, right? And this was a victory for him because he was finally reunited with his brother. And he told Binyamin before this happened, hey, قال إني أنا أخوك فلا تبتئس بما كانوا يعملون. That while they were coming to get their money and their food, he said to Binyamin, whispered to him without anyone hearing him, that hey, I'm going to do something and you'll be with me. And don't be sad, don't be hopeless. This is Yusuf, I'm your brother, I'm still alive. So Binyamin was reunited with his brother. I know some people talk about the struggle of Yusuf being away from Binyamin. But how about the struggle of Binyamin being separated from his brother? Right? They were very close in age, and they were very close in just generally. They were very close brothers. They were the only two brothers from that one mother. So he's reunited with Binyamin, the third victory. The fourth victory, and this is also a great victory, where the Prophet, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, speaks about this fourth victory as well, where he says that finally, after all of this time and all of this struggle that is going back and forth with his brothers and the struggle between his brothers, he and his brothers come to an agreement where he forgives his brothers, and there's a love that is brought back within them. There's love that's brought. Allah puts the love of each other back in their hearts, where he says, قال لا تثريب عليكم اليوم يغفر الله لكم وهو أرحم الراحمين. But don't worry about it, that Allah has forgiven you and I have nothing in my heart. And these were the same words that the Prophet echoed when he walked into Fath Makkah, when some of the Sahabas were hoping to get some revenge, and the Prophet said, لا تثريب عليكم اليوم يغفر الله لكم. There's no one that's going to be harmed today, no revenge that's going to happen today. Everyone will be forgiven. And lastly, the last victory, and the greatest victory out of them all, was the fact that he was reunited with his parents, his father, Yaqub alayhi salam, who went on for 40 years without seeing his son, and he cried for 40 years. But he never complained to anyone but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the definition of a sabrun jameel. Sabrun jameel means la shikwa li ahadin illa Allah, that I will not complain to anyone but Allah. قال إنما أشكو بثي وحزني إلى الله. I will only turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the narration of Ibn Kathir, it's been mentioned that he cried for 40 years in sajda. And after 40 years, each night he would cry in sajda. After 40 years, one night he said he had this discussion with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where he said, Ya Allah, ألا ترحم ضعفي ألا ترحم فقري ألا ترحم كبر أمي or kibra sinni, will you not have mercy on my age, my weakness, my poverty? Will you not have mercy on me? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down Jibreel alayhi salam to tell him that there is soon to be a victory that is to come. And Allah responded that لو كان يوسف ميتا لأحييته لك, that if Yusuf had passed away, after that dua, I would have brought him back to life, because there's such a beautiful dua that you made and how you asked to bring Yusuf back to you. And the Mufassirun say the next day the news of Yusuf alayhi salam's shirt came, that his shirt was wiped over his face, where he was blind, and his eyesight was brought back. And then he goes back, the entire family goes to Misr, and they are welcomed with a welcoming party for the ages, where 70,000 of the army men of Misr came out 40 miles in the outskirts of Misr to welcome the father of their king, Yusuf alayhi salam. And Yusuf alayhi salam descended his camel or his horse, and he went up to his father, and he took his crown off, or his helmet that he was wearing, and put it on his father's head, and he kissed him in the forehead. And this was what you call, I mean, I wish we could flip to the pages of history and see this scene unfold, where the son finally is reunited with the father after such a long period of time, 40 years of being away from each other, and finally being brought back together. Right? We can just imagine the emotions that both the father and the son are experiencing. But for sabrun jameel, there's no complaints except to Allah. There's no complaints but to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have istiqbal. Istiqbal means a welcoming. The welcoming that we get when we go to Pakistan, back home in our Arab countries, or when you come back from Hajj, our whole family comes to pick us up from the airport. Imagine half the kingdom of Misr coming to pick you up, right, or to welcome you in. And this was the victory, the 5 victories that Yusuf alayhi salam was given. So the 5 losses and the 5 victories, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those that understand that sometimes the struggle comes upon a struggle, but when the ease comes, the ease also comes in flurries, as do the struggles. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with afiyah. Allahumma nas'aluka al-afwa wal afiyah fi dunya wal akhirah. Oh Allah, we ask for ease in this world, and we ask that you protect us from any hardship and struggle. May Allah give us the understanding of the beautiful stories that are in the Quran, not just limited to Surah Yusuf, but all the stories, and allow us to take benefit from them. This is a 10-minute recap. We can only cover so much, and I tried my best to cover the entire surah in these 5 struggles, in these 5 victories, and I hope, inshallah, you were able to benefit from them. Jazakallah khair. May Allah bless you all. And once again, we appreciate you coming online. And I hope you guys continue to do so until we finish the Quran. And inshallah, we'll see you all at 9:30 when Shaykh Abdullah and Mufti Abdul Rahman do their daily Quran reflections. And hopefully you benefit from that as well. Jazakallah khair, everyone. May Allah bless you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.